the rest of the book is just like... Hey book nerds, it's time to count down my top 10 favorite epic fantasy novels. Number 10 is Snow Like Ashes by Sara Raasch. The thing that I really loved about this book is definitely the world because, wait for the map. Ta-da. Because the world is set in sort of like these seasons, and so it's like summer, winter, fall, spring, and when you go from like winter to summer, it's like, oh, cross the line and boom, I'm from snow into flowers, and it's really awesome. Plus, the main character, she uses this as a weapon, which is like that Xena thing that Xena throws. You know, that like metal frisbee thing, the chakram, that's what she throws, and it's super awesome. So you guys should definitely check out this series. Number 9 on my epic fantasy list is Legacy of Kings by Eleanor Herman. This one is technically a historical fantasy. I'm not sure if that counts, but there's magic. And it's historical because it's based on Alexander the Great as a teenager, and there's magic. So I sort of feel like this totally counts as epic fantasy, but also historical, but also epic fantasy. Oh my god, which one is it? Anyway, awesome retelling. It sort of reminded me of Game of Thrones, that there's like all these characters and they traverse across all these different continents, and there's some romance and a lot of action, and I just really like this series. So if you haven't checked this one out, do it now. Number 8 on this epic fantasy list is The Winter's Curse by Rutkoski. I actually read this one on ebook and I own the hardcover, but I completely forgot to bring it in for this video, so let's just pop it in right there and ooh and ah over this beautiful cover. This series is completely wrapped up, which is great because if you're looking for something to binge read, ta-da, you can totally read this one. It is less on the like magical fantasy side, as it is more about like the political intrigue and sort of like a cat and mouse game between these two characters, and there's a really awesome card game in there that I really want to learn how to play called Bite and Sting. And basically this is one of my favorite series that is like a little bit different because there's a little bit less action and there's more like dialogue and things like that, and yet somehow it still is not boring and is totally engaging and really totally under the radar, and everybody needs to read it. So if you haven't read this series yet, check it out. It is amazing. What number am I on? I don't even remember. Number next on this list is Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and this book was so unbelievably good that literally like everyone blurbed it. So I'm just gonna read a few of those blurbs because they're probably gonna say things about it in a much better way that I could ever articulate. So we've got Ursula K. Le Guin. The magic in Uprooted is so vividly believable that it almost seems you could work the spells. We'll just do a little close-up so you can see it too while I keep reading this. Cassie Clare said, a delight, surprising twists and turns. Rachel Hartman, author of Seraphina, said, Rachel Hartman said, a living heart book. Its mythology vital, deep, and true. Which is basically what I would have said about all of this thing right here too. Number 6 on my list, again, e-reader, so it's gonna be like, ta-da, right there, is Graceling by Kristin Cashore. This was actually my very first YA fantasy book that I ever read. Oh, swoon. Early days of reading YA. It's part of a trilogy, but they kind of read like standalones. It's followed by Bitter Blue and Fire. And I actually never read the other two. I should totally probably do that since I loved Graceling so much. But I loved Graceling and Poe and their whole relationship and how feminist this story was and how badass Graceling was and how she was basically just this most awesome, perfect, badass fighter who also happened to fall in love. But he was like, let's stay together forever. And she was just like, nah, I'm cool. I don't really need a man, you know, like whatever. But I still like you, so like that's cool. Anyway, this series is really amazing. Definitely check out Graceling. It's an oldie but goodie, and I love it, and I hope you guys do too. Number that is the entire Grishaverse series by Leigh Bardugo, which starts out with Shadow and Bone, continues with 2 more books, and then ta-da, pretend I'm holding it, Six of Crows is the next iteration of that, followed by Crooked Kingdom, which I cannot wait to read. Oh, hopefully by the time this video comes out, I will have already read it and owned it and snugged it and sniffed it. Anyway, there isn't much to say about this series because I feel like you guys already know everything there is to know about it because it is that good. But I am just going to show you the chapter headings in case you haven't read it and you're like, oh, I don't know if I should read it or not. Don't go by the description or other people's reviews. Just go by these gorgeous chapter headings because they're so pretty. Ta-da! Aren't those pretty? I like those a lot. The whole design of this whole series is so good. I don't know, I just love everybody. And the Darkling, Lasoon, I know, I shouldn't like the Darkling because he's the villain and all, but like, cannot help it. And Kaz from Six of Crows, and just, oh, the whole thing, you guys. I love it. Number 4 on our epic fantasy list is a brand new one to the YA fantasy world, and that is Ruined by Amy Tintera. Ruined. I keep wanting to say it that way. Ruined. Anyway, it's really super action-packed. This is the book that will get you out of your reading slump. Last list video, we talked about book hangovers, which inevitably lead into reading slumps. This is one of those books that, like, you will get out of your reading slump because of this book, because boom, chapter 1, people are dying, things are happening, shit's going down, and that is just pretty much how the whole book goes. It's like chapter 1, lots of stuff happens, and then the rest of the book is just like, you know, that kind of thing. Awesome, badass female characters, lots of big things happening, magic, and this end scene, when she does that to that person, I can't tell you what happens, but if you've read it, you will know what I'm talking about. Did that just like shock you? Because it totally shocked me. Anyway, guys, check out Ruined by Amy Tintera. First in a first book, there's gonna be a sequel next spring called Avenged. Check it out, y'all. Number 3 on this list is probably the most commented books on the last video. I asked you guys what are your favorite epic fantasies, and pretty much everybody said the same thing, so here's what all of you guys said about the Sarah J. Maas books. Number 2 on my epic fantasy list is SABRIEL by Garth Nix, and this is the old school edition, y'all. Check that out. There is a new version. I have it somewhere. Oh, it's over here. Here's the new version. Ta-da! Shinies. See? You can see all the charter marks on them. But I'm gonna hold up the old school edition because there's a special place in my heart for this book. Look at this original cover, it's so good. So this book came out in 1995, when basically none of you were born yet, and it has been a classic ever since. In fact, 2 years ago, Garth Nix came out with a prequel to the series, Clariel, and then this year there's gonna be a whole new one called Golden Hand that comes after the events in Abortion, which is the 3rd book after this one. So it goes SABRIEL, Leerball, Abortion, Golden Hand, Clariel's the prequel. You could read it before, you could read it after. Anyway, I really love this series, and there's like some zombies, and there's fighting, and there's an underworld, and there's undead, and there's a talking dog, and there's a talking cat, and there's a lot of really classic, fun, amazing fantasy elements in this Old Kingdom series, and it holds a special place in my heart. It is sentimental because, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have like wedding rings and stuff on there because I got married, and the boy that I tricked into marrying me, he proposed with a quote from SABRIEL, so obviously I had to say yes. Because when a boy proposes to you using a line from one of your favorite books, you say yes. The number 1 epic YA fantasy for me on this list, I was gonna go with Game of Thrones, but technically it's adult, and technically I actually haven't read the books. I've just watched the show, so that's why it's not on this list. But the number 1 books for me are the Girl of Fire and Thorn series by Ray frickin' Carson. Because this series is amazing. I read this entire series in one sitting. Literally, I picked up the first one on a Friday because like all my friends were like, yeah, it's really good. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I started reading this one, and I was like, you know, maybe I like it, so I'll bring the other 2 home with me just in case, you know, because that's what you have to do. Like, just buy the whole trilogy, because in case you might like it, you want to binge read the rest of them, and that's exactly what I did in one sitting. I stayed up for 12 hours reading this series, and it's one of those weird cases where I actually liked the second book way more than I liked the first book, which I feel like is never the case. Most people like the first book or the last book, but I feel like it's very rare for anybody to really like the second one, but I think wholeheartedly that the second one is the best, because Hector is in it. I don't want to like give any spoilers away, there's a lot of spoilers, but Hector is probably my biggest YA crush besides Four, my guy Four. My second biggest crush is Hector from this series. And if you read this book, you will find out why. And their first kiss when they're in the sewers. Oh my god. I feel like I'm spoiling things. But I just really want to talk about it because I really, really love this series. And the best part about this series, besides Hector and the swoony moments, is the main character. She is one of those girls that is like, she's strong, not because she's like a fighter or anything like that. She's strong because she's smart and she uses her brain and makes such good decisions. Like, have you ever read a book and the character is clearly making the wrong decision and you're reading it and you're just like, don't do that. Just don't do that thing. And then they do it and you're like, why did you do that? So that's pretty much the exact opposite with this book, because she makes decisions that I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I was reading it on the subway, rereading it on the subway recently, and I was literally like fist pumping in the air when she was like, you know, strategizing and making all these battle plans. She's like, we're gonna do this to take them down. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm on board. All aboard this train. Oh my god, this is so good. I just feel so just like empowered when I read this book. And you will too if you read it, so definitely check it out. Best YA fantasy series, in my humble opinion. So that's it for this month's list video. Tell me what your favorite epic fantasy books are in the comments below. And next month's video is all gonna be about your favorite creepy reads. So tell us what So head to the comments below and tell me what your favorite creepy reads are, and we might screenshot you and feature you in the next video. Happy reading and book shimmy!